Alrighty, welcome to episode 210 of Tokwa's Ask Us Anything. As usual, it's been a pretty busy news week. Tesla has removed its standard range rear-wheel drive launch edition refreshed Model Y from its Australian and New Zealand order pages. As of today, only the all-wheel drive long-range variant remains, with its delivery date stated as starting in May. While the simplest explanation is Tesla has effectively sold out of the rear-wheel drive variant for the time being, a more interesting possibility is that this deletion may be related to Tesla's much vaunted and impending release of more affordable models. Tesla has interestingly changed the way it's describing its FSD package in Australia. While its website order pages continue to refer to full self-driving capability, other parts of Tesla's ecosystem now refer to full self-driving supervised. Unsurprisingly, this subtle change in nomenclature has fueled speculation of an imminent Australian release of FSD supervised. And that was this week's news. Indeed it was, and welcome to the program. As is customary, if there is anyone who is new and is comfortable in doing so, please do unmute and say hello. Or perhaps a little bit later on. Alrighty, so obviously a couple of local news items. The not so much deletion, but I presume temporary deletion of the rear-wheel drive Juniper, which probably is just sold out, but you never know. And the renaming in part of Tesla's ecosystem of FSD. Um, Pete, you might have a bit to say about this.
Oh, not really, except when I saw it, I thought, oh, must be getting it soon in right-hand drive markets. So I got very excited, and when I say very excited, to the tune of $10,100 excited.
So it cost you money.
And then I looked at my phone today, and no longer says FSD supervised. It's gone back to FSD capability. So if it was a marketing trick, it sure worked on me.
Shareholder, right. Thank you, Pete.
Yes, they reeled you right in there, Pete, just on the addition of one word, the word supervised. Sorry,
Yeah,
from capability to supervised.
doesn't take much.
Look, like any good hypochondriac would know, if you keep thinking something bad's going to happen, or even good, one day you'll be right. And indeed, one day we will be right, and there will be FSD supervised in Australia. Actually, as
Yeah.
a matter of a bit of backgrounding on that, Elon Musk did state it was about 6 or 9 months ago, or two or three quarterly earnings calls ago, that Tesla absolutely did intend to bring FSD, well, let's call it supervised, but I don't think he called it that at the time, but to bring FSD into right-hand drive markets by late Q1 this year or Q2. So, you know, going by Elon's sort of previous performance, we've still got another few more months for that prophecy to come true. So who knows? It'd be lovely if I could use FSD supervised on my second car that's had it, or is it the third? Oh God, it might be the third.
It'd be the third, Harold,
It's the
wouldn't
third one. Yeah.
it?
Yep.
X,
Yep.
Y, Y. Yeah.
XYY. Deary me, that sounds like an interesting genetic disorder, but yes, it. I hope to use it one day before selling that car. Um, in fact, it would have been about 400,000 kilometers of not FSD driving on cars that have had it sold to me. But never mind. But yeah, one day we'll be right. FSD is coming to Australia. We just don't know when. It is literally just a software update away. Alrighty. On that cheery note, any opening questions or comments?
I hear Tesla's going to be opening a pop-up shop at Lakeside for a week or so. Be interesting to see
Yeah.
how it goes there.
Ah,
They've been,
Joondalup.
they've been there yesterday morning.
Oh, they were.
Yeah. It's indefinite as to how long they'll be there for, but it looks like they'll be there for at least till Friday, and we'll see if they're still there Saturday or next week.
What have they got there? Is it just a Model 3 Highland?
I actually haven't been. I've been meaning to go and have a look and say hello, but Tesla sent out a email on last Friday. So I was in Joondalup anyway, and I went and spoke to some of the people there, the concierge desk, and they told me that they were coming Tuesday morning. So it's between Coles and Woolworths. That's usually where the car stands are.
Yeah, no worries. Obviously, this Friday or this coming weekend, the Juniper Model Y, the refreshed Model Y, will be in Sydney at Sydney's Electrify Everything thingo, whatever you call it, event or expo.
Expo.
Yes, expo.
Together with the Cybertruck, it's come back again to Australia.
Yes, that's interesting. So it didn't spend a lot of time in New Zealand, but so it's back here for a little bit, presumably before it goes back to the States.
I wonder if they'll do another lap with it around the cities. It'd be brilliant if they did.
Well, there's the open invitation if they ever want to do a proper lap in it. I'll even bring my own charging equipment and all that stuff, but never mind. Anyway, there was something else I thought of. No, that was it. Yeah, basically Juniper in Sydney this weekend. If you're really super keen to see it early, then Sydney's just a flight away, or a drive. You'd have to. I suggest if you wanna drive there, you better leave now. Anyway, alrighty. Any other questions or comments?
Have you heard anything about the rumours of the Oh, Penny's got a question.
Oh, Penny, yes, Penny, got your hand up. I just got to unmute, Penny. Oh, there you go.
Oh, hi guys. I think I'm the only female on tonight at the moment, but still. I've got a very quick question. I'm going away for 5 weeks. Should I leave the car plugged in? I've got trickle charge at home, or should I not? And I had a look at the manual and it says you can leave the car plugged in all the time. What's your opinion?
Yes, do. So, what have you got, a standard range car, Penny, or a long range?
I've got a Model Y standard.
Okay, so what you should do is set your charge limit to something less than the 100% that you normally would set it to. So say, look, anything from say 60 to 80%. In fact, 80% is fine. Just set it to that, even if your car is actually higher than that current charge, and leave it plugged in with the charger turned on, and then just go on your holiday in some amount of time, depending on whether you've got Sentry mode on, or I don't think cabin overheat protection will come in now. We're going to have a hot day tomorrow, but later on it'll be fine.
I don't use Sentry mode very often, so at home, so it's in the garage, so it's okay.
Yep. So you've got it set to exclude home?
Yes.
Perfect. So in that case, it'll probably take quite a while for your battery. Say if you started out at 100%, as you would daily, it would probably take quite a number of days / maybe a few weeks before it eventually drooped down to say 80%. And then the car would just take a little sip of energy to get back to 80%. And it might do that, periodically until you get back. And then, of course, when you're away, there's nothing stopping you, say, the day before you come back, to put the charge level back up to 100% if you like. So then you can just continue to use your car as you were before. But definitely do plug it in. Yep, sorry,
why
go.
you don't just charge it fully. Can I just ask, why don't you charge it fully and then just let it drip down?
Oh, well, because you can never really predict at exactly at what rate it might consume energy. And the thing too is your travel plans could change as well. For some reason, you may be delayed. Depending on where you're flying to, there could be, a volcano or something, or some
Yeah,
weird
yeah.
occurrence that prevents you from getting back at your expected time. And obviously, the last thing you want to do is worry about what's going to happen to your car if you're delayed or it unexpectedly absorbs a bit more energy than expected. So the best thing to do is keep it plugged in, and of course, plugging it in won't cause it to consume any energy unless the battery gets down to the level you've set. So it's and you don't actually you're not wasting energy doing this, because if you say knew you were going to go away for just say 2 or 3 weeks and the car went down from 100% to, I don't know, 50%, when you charge it back up, that same amount of energy that's required to go from 50 to 100 would be the same as if you left it plugged in at 80% and every now and then just sipped a little bit to maintain the 80, and then when you get back you fill it up from 80 to 100. So it's not costing any extra energy, and it's guaranteeing that the battery will be always at an appropriate level, and also that you'll be able to use it properly when you get back. Excuse me. When you get back from your holiday, you don't have to wait for it to charge back up again. And like I said, you could have an unforeseen circumstance that causes you to be delayed in your journey back home. And yeah, the last thing you want to have to do is try and organise a friend to gain access to the garage and plug your car in and all that sort of stuff.
Thank you so much.
But please don't set it to 100%. Although even if you did and you forgot, that's fine. Although of course, if you did forget, you can look on your phone app and you can see what it's been set to and just drag the slider on the phone app down to say 80% or whatever you prefer, and the battery will eventually sag down to that level.
Okay, thank you so much.
No worries, pleasure.
Penny, before you leave, when you plug the car in, just double check to make sure that it has been plugged in properly. So you can have a look at the T logo, and if it's charging, then it should start flashing green,
Yeah.
and then you've got a proper connection, because you don't want to be in a situation where you're overseas and it's dropped to, let's say, 20%, and then you want to charge it, but you realise you can't because it's plugged in properly.
Okay, thank you for the tip.
No worries. I think you're muted, Harold.
Oh, sorry. Anyone else got any questions? Thanks for that. Pete? I think it was Jeffrey was going to ask a question, or looked like he was going to ask a question, or anyone else want to ask a question or a comment on this show weirdly called Ask Us Anything?
A question.
Well,
Probably me.
Yes, Ken. Thank you.
Is there any current wisdom on tires? There seems to be a endless variety of tire manufacturers that are now hitting the market with EV tires, which is a wonderful, wonderful thing. And I'm assuming they're mostly targeting the quiet/low rolling resistance market. So yeah, I'm just actually in the market for some tires for that car. And obviously my plan was to do what I've been doing for the last 2 rounds of tires, which was to get, Pilot Sport 4s and stick them on there, and they last me 35,000 Ks and they're great. But of course, my local Tire Power has come back with a list of about 6 tires that they think I should get. It's just to chuck it out to the collective wisdom.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And I guess EV tyres are becoming quite trendy. And a lot of them spruik, they're quieter. And to be honest, I've worn tyres that have had the foam rubber insert, and for the life of me, I can't pick the difference. In my X, which is an older
Another
series car, I've always targeted hard compound tires, but that's because I militantly object to having tires, wear out prematurely. Um, yeah, I must admit I'd have bought the what do you call it, Hankook, the
Oh, the
Ion?
Evo, the
Ion,
Evos.
Evo
Yeah.
Ion, yeah, the super
Yeah.
expensive tires, and yeah, I can't really tell if they're much more efficient than the previous version or the stock version.
Yeah.
It's really marginal. I mean, I've done laps around Australia in the same sort of car, and the numbers are sort of pretty much very similar. But
Yeah.
that's yeah. I'd be going on. Yeah, you're right. It's going to be trendy.
Yeah.
We're going to start getting sucked into, oh, but you must buy this EV rated tire because it's got a higher, a lot of the spruik, a lot of things they spruik are things like higher load limits, load bearing capacity, because EVs are heavier and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's a good question. Me myself, and perhaps you as a Scotsman would want to go to the one of the better value tires, perhaps, but.
Because
Yeah.
I got the Pilot 5s, which don't have the foam and that stuff, and they've been fine, and I've had them for 50,000, and I've got my performance car, so but I'm not driving mine like a performance much anymore, so yeah, so
You've
and
grown up.
Leonie's got the yeah, I've grown up a little bit, and Leonie's got the Ions, and I don't know, muchness.
Yeah. Yeah.
One thing that's happened with tyres sort of over the last 5 to 10 years, that even the lower price product is actually pretty good. It's probably as good as a middle of the range tyre was 5 or 10 years ago. So I started experimenting with some of the lower priced ones, and yeah, I've had no issues with any of them. They seem to grip just as good. They seem to last just as well. Yeah, the only thing that I can, I'm no expert, so the only thing that I can tell a difference with is the price. So, but that's usually the less you know, the more you gravitate to the only thing that you do know, which is price. So, yeah. So, but yeah, I've even tried a couple of pretty much no-name tires, and I've had no issues. They're still on the cars and still going well. But yeah, on the performance, I've stuck to the Continentals. They were probably a couple of $100 a tire cheaper than the Michelins, than the Pilot Sports, and they've been fantastic. I think I've gone through about 2 or 3 sets of those, and they've been lasting 50, 60K, even in the Performance Model 3. So.
Oh, very good. All right.
Well, I'll report back when I buy a set.
Yeah, just get a good value set, Ken. Oh,
I am still a Scotsman after all,
absolutely.
I was going to say, buy the cheap set, and then the leftover money buy a Tesla share or two.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Tesla shares are on sale, aren't they, at the
Yeah,
moment?
exactly. They're on sale.
One thing also is, if you aren't in desperate hurry to get them, today or this week, I found that just sort of monitoring the market, different brands come on sale every now and then at different suppliers, and yeah, even with the Continentals, yeah, they were about $150 cheaper, from week to week. So yeah, so that's basically what I've been doing is, on the performance car, sticking to at least the brands that I recognise, and just waiting for a sale. And with the other ones, I just go for not the cheapest there is, but I try and get a bit of advice. But just because I don't recognise the name, it doesn't put me off anymore.
Yeah, I've only got a little bit of steel belt showing, so it'll be fine. I've got another 10,000 Ks.
Or no, don't know about that.
You haven't lived until you've got all 4 tires showing belts.
Anyway,
Well, I've actually done one better. I've had the actual inner tube showing, so the whole tire's gone off. But that was on a different EV. It was on my scooter, so I wouldn't do that with the car. But it was the front wheel on the scooter, and yeah, you could actually poke through the tire, through the rubber, and get onto the tube.
Well, I don't want
Talking
to.
of tyres,
Yes.
I was just going to say my friend on his long range Model 3 had his tyres changed the other day, the OEMs, 97,500.
Sorry, on a Model 3.
Yeah, Model 3 long range, 97,500 Ks he done on those tyres.
Wow.
I can tell you one thing: your friend does not drive like me.
Oh,
I think that's
not
very
like
clear,
any
Ken.
of us.
He
Yeah.
must have been doing some drifting at the track.
Yeah, he has he does drive like Miss Daisy now, but no, certainly when I went out in his car, he was he didn't he was showing me his performance when I first went out in it.
That's remarkable. That's what I
Yeah.
used to get in a non-Tesla back in the day, but I've never gone anywhere near that. Ugh.
Yeah.
But I rent my cars out, and when people rent a car, especially a Tesla, especially a performance car, they drive it, the way you drive a rental car. So they obviously floor it and launch it and all the rest of it, and yeah, they're still lasting 50,000 k. So even the cheaper brands. So how you could do 10,000 kilometers? Yeah, it must have been doing some drifting on a track. Or some donor.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to get good out of my tyres because you've been mentioning, Harold, the rear tyres on the Performance Y, that wear down quicker. So yeah, I'm a little bit. Yeah, I think I'll be happy with 40,000.
Yes, Matt, indeed. The rear suspension geometry on the Model Y Performance is just shocking. It's just not intended. It's not intended to be kind to tires. It's intended for absolute cornering at speed ability, and tires are a secondary thing. Just like some of the Mercedes AMGs, where people get 20,000 Ks and think that's a good deal.
Yeah.
Trev, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I must drive like Matt's mate because I reckon we're going to get 90,000 out of our set on our Model 3 as well.
Yeah, but Trev, you only drive in straight lines
I
down
do.
the highway.
It's just forest highway. It's getting thicker and thicker every time I go up it. Yeah. So we're planning a trip to Darwin and back in July. Few things to sort out between now and then. I'll probably have to reach out later on about potentially borrowing a spare. But it occurred to me the other day, is it as simple as just pulling the USB out and loading it up with music, and you can have offline music if you don't want to store it on your phone, or does the USB only do the Sentry and you can't actually play back?
I think you can.
Yeah, you can definitely put audio tracks on the USB, and the car will play them.
Oh, sweet. All right. I was just wondering whether we're going to do it via the phone or the USB. I know we'll be taking a lot of photos, and I know my wife's phone will be definitely full, so hers is out of the question. It's just whether we use mine and download music and podcasts and whatnot, or maybe just the podcast, and I'll load up some USB music to get us through those gaps.
Which way are you going to Darwin? Are you going the WA route or going via South Australia?
I think we're just going to go up and back via WA.
Yeah, okay, cool.
We've got 3.5 weeks total, hoping to get up there a lot faster and then take our time coming home, but haven't planned anything out really at this point. A few little thought bubbles popped into my head about where I can get off the beaten track, maybe duck into, say, Emma Gorge up near Kununurra and Argyle and a few places that we've done before but would like to see again. But haven't put a lot of thought into it at this point. I mapped it out on a Better Route Planner and had a quick look to see how many of the stations were functioning. It looks like, other than the high-speed one at Halls Creek, it's pretty clear run. I think Wim Creek might have dropped out the other day, but we'll figure it out in months between now and then. It'll change. Hopefully they're all up, or even a couple of extras. But
So-
I'm not too fussed.
Yeah, I look at it's a bit of a hazard of having done it a few times. I regularly look nearly every day at the WAV network charges on the northwest coast, and yeah, frustratingly, they seem to blink in and out. So
Yeah.
Wim Creek, I don't even know as of this moment. Of course, the ChargeFox app is terrible as far as if you're more zoomed out, it just
Yeah.
refuses on an iPhone to show any pins whatsoever.
Yeah, I noticed that as well.
I can see now just optically, Wim Creek is a black pin.
Yeah.
So that's offline. Now that doesn't necessarily mean it's not working.
Yeah, it just means that it may be free, hopefully.
Yeah, it may be powered and on free vend, or it might have experienced a nuisance trip, in which case the circuit breaker needs to be reset
Yeah.
physically by a human bothering to visit it.
Yeah.
Which unfortunately there aren't many humans connected to the WAV network that seem to be bothered to do anything as
Yeah.
far as keeping it alive regularly. So it's a bit of hit and miss. What you'd need to do is, and it's kind of frustrating to say it, but you should approach as you get, well, so for example, Wim Creek is irrelevant because it's only 220 odd kilometres between Port Hedland and Karratha.
Yeah.
And notwithstanding that Port Hedland's had a couple of issues in the past, it seems to be a bit stable at the moment. So you just sort of, you don't even have to fully charge at Karratha, just charge to 80% or not even that, and then shoot straight to Port Hedland. But obviously, if you can take one for the team and just do a very quick,
Oh, yeah.
just a trickle charge, sorry, not trickle charge, just a quick splash and dash, just so you can basically put in a post on PlugShare to confirm it's working.
Yeah.
But don't actually consume any meaningful power because Wim Creek is only 50 kilowatts as opposed to the 150 kilowatts at Karratha and Port Hedland.
Yeah.
Then you should approach each charger. So once you go north or towards Broome past Port Hedland, everything between Port Hedland and Broome is 50 kilowatts. So then it makes sense to not go past any charger without trying it. And you might as well, so for example, the next one is, if we can get,
Blue.
is Pardue. So you've got Pardue and then Sandfire and then Bidgidanga. So what you should do is basically, once you've charged it actually I'll put the map back up. Once you've charged at Sandfire, you can make it to Broome if you're fairly fully charged. What you should do is when you're at Port Hedland, charge so that you've got enough battery capacity to make it to Sandfire, right? So you don't have to use Pardue if it's not working.
Yeah.
But don't spend any longer than needed to get to Sandfire because you'll probably be charging at less than 50 kilowatts by then.
Yeah.
So once your rate of charge goes below 50 kilowatts, then it's better to use one of these two chargers. But obviously when you get to Pardue, which is only about an hour and a bit away, do charge there, again, until you've got enough charge to get to Bidgidanga.
Yeah.
But then obviously, just in case Sandfire is not working, and do literally on the day of each leg, check the status of each of the chargers, particularly the DC part, so that if it's online, it'll probably work. But if you sort of do this leapfrogging ability, so you can always have enough reserve to leapfrog to the next one for the time being, then that's useful. Then the one, depending on whether you want to go to Derby, you can make it from Broome to Fitzroy Crossing in one leg.
Yeah, that was the plan. And then the only long run is from Kununurra to Katherine.
Yes.
At this stage, I think we'll attempt it in one hit without stopping. It says it's 500 20 or something, and we get about 630 out of ours. We actually get better range out of ours than what they quote.
Is that so? What car is it?
A 3 long range.
Okay, so
I mean, I was hoping we don't get a big headwind, but if we can avoid it, I won't stop at Timber Creek.
yeah, so at Timber Creek, if it's a look, if you could plan to overnight at Timber Creek, in which case you can just charge up on 15 amps, and then
Yeah.
that's totally fine. Although actually that's tourist season because it's you're going in winter, so it might be a little bit busy. So you just might want to be aware of that. It just depends on how you plan to drive, whether you're going to pre-map all of your overnight stays or whether you're going to be a bit more organic and see how you go. Um, yeah, I mean, there has been a gentleman that did. It was Roger Trulov that went from Kununurra to Catherine in one hit in a Model 3 long range.
Yeah.
So it certainly can be done. And obviously, if you can slot behind a road train, then it can very easily be done.
Yeah.
Or you could strategically overnight at Timber Creek if that meant you sort of stretched a bit further and got to Timber Creek in the early evening, sort of strategically, because then you don't have to fully charge at Kununurra. Or should I say, you don't have to bother with the last, 10% at charging at Kununurra. But it literally just depends, excuse me, on how quickly you want to traverse up to Darwin.
Yeah.
It depends. I can tell you now, you can easily get from Perth to Carnarvon in a day, easily, very easily. I mean, you can do that sort of standing on your head. So then it just depends on whether you want to do that or stretch to Nanyatara. From Nanyatara, you could get to Broome. From Broome, you could get to Kununurra or Timber Creek. The thing you've got to watch out for is, and I hate to say this, and it's very frustrating to have to say this, and some people may say, well, I'm being a bit negative, but given that Halls Creek has been faulty now for the last 30 plus weeks, it is not beyond the bounds of reality that Halls Creek may not be working in winter this year.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, it hasn't been working since we'll just see.
Since about July, was it last year?
Yeah, so back in October it was 11 weeks. Sorry, just view more. I should remember this. Okay, yeah, so July. So, well, what we do know is on the 28th of July it wasn't working. On the 22nd of June it was working. So sometime between June and July, it was vandalized. And as we speak today, it is still not been fixed. And I guess you could say, if they haven't bothered to fix it now, and nothing bad seems to have happened as far as, ministerial grumpiness, and given that we're just coming into an election, which means that whichever party gets in will be able to, put their feet up for the next 4 years, it's plausible that Halls Creek might not be working. So what you should do is, and by the way, Fitzroy Crossing barely works. And it's not going to get fixed either because there's just zero interest in fixing Fitzroy Crossing.
As in the DC's down and you have to use AC?
No, the AC doesn't. I don't think the AC works. The screen is still smashed. It's actually worse than that now. Actually, that's a very old photo. That's probably a newer one. Yeah, you can't really see it. But the screen has been vandalized, and it hasn't been touched. No one from Horizon Power or a contractor has touched the Fitzroy Crossing unit. It barely works. For me, it worked on the 6th attempt to have meaningful power. All the previous 5 attempts, I'd get 2.5 kilowatts. And I was just on the verge of leaving to go to the Fitzroy River Lodge to charge on the AC. And the only reason why I didn't was because I was literally on the phone to ChargeFox, because I wanted to make the point that, I could ring ChargeFox and they'd be able to do nothing for me. but I was going to ask them to reset the unit. I think I was on the phone for 14 minutes, and no, it was a bit less than that. But I then virtually gave up. But while I was sort of on the phone, I kept on trying charging sessions, and on the sixth attempt, it gave me full power. So what you do is do charge up at Fitzroy Crossing, and then you need to fully charge at the Ngumban or Numpen Cliff Rest area, which is the Mueller Ranges, and that will give you enough to get to Warman without going to Halls Creek.
Yeah.
So, and then Warman has mostly been pretty solid, and then obviously you can then easily get to Kununurra after you charge at Warman, and then once you've gotten to Catherine, it's just a doddle because you can, well, actually you can. What you do is you fairly fully charge at Catherine and hammer it at 130 k's an hour, which is the speed limit, and hit Adelaide River, which is a 160 kilowatt charger, and then you're in Darwin.
Yeah.
So it actually be good in an EV to be able to do the full 130 kilometre an hour speed limit and not worry about state of charge or anything like that.
Yeah, I'm sure by then we would have, after we've racked up, 3,500 k's, we'll know if we can make it from Kununurra to Catherine. But that'll be the plan.
Yes.
Is to, I think, because of the days that we're leaving, we're trying to maximise time with family that we've got up there. So
Yeah.
we'll be trying to make it up there in 5 days, and then we've got 2.5 weeks to hang out and work our way back, or 3 weeks probably to hang out and get our way back. So
Look,
no
you
doubt
can-
be going quick up.
You can, you could, if you've got 2 drivers, which you do, you could make it in much less than 5 days.
Yeah,
Less.
I've done it. We've been up there to see my sister many a times, and the fastest I think we've done it was left on a Friday morning, and we arrived Sunday just after lunch.
Yep.
But that was almost non-stop, other than a couple of 2-hour stoppages. So
Well,
we won't be going quite that fast this time, but we may even do a little bit of sightseeing depending on her roster.
Yeah, cool. I mean, what you could choose to do is try and get up there really quickly and then sort of do a more of a meander on the way back, because then you know that at least you've got the baseline for how long it took to get up there. You could then give yourself an extra few days to do a few meandering side trips in the Kimberley and other places. And again, hopefully, I'd like to hope that in 4 months, the landscape will be different.
I'm just banking on it being exactly the way it is. So, and it's still doable. So we'll manage it. If we don't get it there as fast as we want to get there, it's okay. We'll just do with what we can. But
the main thing to do is, in the case of going on the WAV network, never go past a DC charger that's not working. Oh, sorry, that is working. Always charge up at that next charger.
Yeah.
As long as it's, you don't have to, for example, you don't have to fully charge at Geraldton to get to Northampton. You know that Northampton's going to work. And then the great thing about that too is when you're going towards Carnarvon, you've actually got 2 places you can charge between, let's call it Northampton and Carnarvon, and that's Billabong and Overlander. And Billabong's had its ups and downs, and Overlander is structurally unreliable because of the way it deals with communications. So then just charge up at Billabong, sufficient to get to Carnarvon, and you can even just ignore Overlander.
I actually made two routes with a better route planner. One of them I put 21 stops in, another one I put 17 stops in. Both are easily achievable. Well, the 17 is easily achievable, but it actually said that the 21 was only going to be about 4 hours and 10 minutes of total charging. Once we went down to 17, it brought it up to about 5.5 hours because there was a lot more 100% charges or above 85% anyway. So obviously it adds a lot of time. So it doesn't always pay to skip them. Stop in and have a coffee and top up and get going.
Absolutely. And, a classic example of that is going between Kalgoorlie and Perth. The best charging session I've ever had, and it was just an accident. I think I arrived at Southern Cross at about 5% state of charge. I stayed there for about 10 minutes, and for the whole duration, I got 110 kilowatts, and it was just enough to get from Southern Cross to Merredin. Even though that's 100 kilometres, I could have just fully charged at Southern Cross and made it to Perth. But
Yep.
there's no point because it's so much faster if you can get that bottom charging for a brief amount of time where you get full power rate. And that's on the fast chargers. When you're up north and you've got 50 kilowatt chargers, you actually do the opposite. You sort of more top charge
Yeah.
because then you've got more depth to claw into if you need to if the next charge is not working. So you sort of invert your behavior. When they're reliable fast chargers, you bottom charge. So you take your battery down to the lower part so you can absorb as much energy as possible quickly. And if it's on the 50 kilowatt DC chargers, you can sort of relax and just more top charge until, say 80, 90% and then take off. But it'll be a great journey, and yeah, it'd be awesome to do in an EV for the first time, Trev. That'll be pretty cool.
Yeah, saves towing the van up. We thought we'd do something different.
Yeah, absolutely. Alrighty. Anyone else got any questions or comments?
Yeah, Harold, it's Mark here. Just in another comment with regarding Trev's journey. Just one thing to remember during the winter period up there, particularly through the Pilbara and up through the Broome, is that you're going to get possibly some screaming easterlies. So on the way up, you may find that your range will probably diminish somewhat, but coming back's an absolute breeze, if you'll pardon the pun.
Yeah,
Nice one.
absolutely. And that's the one thing is if you've got a 10 kilometre an hour headwind, in order to get the same efficiency, you'd have to reduce your speed by 10 k's. But of course, if you've got well-spaced charges, which they are basically fairly well spaced, and as long as they all work, you can still just bash out the speed limit. And like I said, in the Kimberley or in the Northern Territory between Kununurra and Catherine, it's just a matter of the weather you get on the day. You just can't tell. And again, you can still.
Every now and then I head off for work a little bit too early and I end up sitting behind a truck just to drag out the time a little bit, and it knocks off about 20 kilowatt per hour.
Yes.
20 watt hours. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Makes a
Yeah. If all else fails, just follow behind a truck, and the truck will either do 100 or 90, and you just smash you'll get ridiculous figures like 115 watt hours per kilometre or something like that, which completely transforms your journey. You could make 600-700 k's squatting behind a truck.
Yeah.
Just a
Alrighty.
quick follow-up. Just a
Yes.
quick follow-up on my earlier answer about USB and audio. I've pasted a link to the owner's manual in the chat. But one thing, of course, that I remember that it points out is on modern Model 3s and Ys, just be aware not every socket is a data socket. So if you put USB in the glove in the glove box, it'll work. But if you put the USB in the center console, it won't work to play audio on cars since about mid 2023-ish.
Perfect. Cheers, Ken.
Just do a test. It goes without saying, Trev. Test it well before you're going to leave, so then you don't get flustered at the very end. And
I haven't even opened the glove box since we bought the car. I'll get there.
actually, if you've got a Model 3, which you do, I don't know how they actually put the USB stick in there, because it's the Model 3, especially on the Highland, the glove box is so impossibly thin, narrow, whatever, not very tall, short. I don't even know how you can't even like pinch the USB and get your sort of hand in there. It's just impossible. But anyway,
I'll get the wife onto it then.
Yeah, or exploit some child labour. Works for me.
very good. Or you could take a Starlink mini dish with you, Trev, and have 100 megabits per second all the way, which could be
I'm
useful.
sure we'll manage. I'll put some boring music on to keep the kids asleep.
You just be careful. There might be a United Nations charter that might forbid that. But anyway, very good. All right. Any other questions or comments? And perhaps anything that's in the chat as well that might have been a question could be useful.
There was a nice article in the chat about Beverly opening a charger.
Oh, yes. Sorry, I did have that image up actually. And here it is. So it's an interesting charger. I haven't actually seen this one
No.
before. A Sonic charge.
I had a look on PlugShare and it says no app required. There's a QR code and you can pay with a card, with a credit card, or you can pay in your in the browser.
Actually, Paul, you're part of the Walga ecosystem. Is that anything you're aware of, or is that's something a side project of Beverly's?
That's
As
a
in
side
what
project of
brand
those
is?
guys.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, right.
it wasn't under mine, and maybe they got a charge up grant, this WA grant or something.
Yep.
To do it.
Yeah, it's not a charger that looks
I'll
familiar.
look into it. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, they didn't consult us or anything. So, as you can see, they got a stupid engine. So, anyway.
And non-compliant marking for the bay, but it's a great start.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there must have been Port Adelaide supporters, perhaps footy supporters, something
Yeah,
like that.
maybe.
Very good.
Cool.
And that's a 50 kilowatt charger?
60.
60.
Oh, 60. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not terrible. I mean, good on
Yeah,
them.
65 cents a kilowatt.
Yeah, okay.
When you got nothing.
It's 60 kilowatt dual CCS.
Yeah, very good. I mean, that's great. That every town needs one or ought to have one as a basic bit of infrastructure. As every town has a public toilet. Really, every town ought to have a public fast DC charger site. So as to, at least pretend that we all live in the first world, which would be nice. Alrighty. Any other questions?
My pressures dropped down this morning on a cold day to 38 psi. Do I bother put them in,
Yes.
or
No,
do I?
You should take it up to 42.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Even though it's going to get warmer again today.
Yes, because well, actually, 38 would probably. I think. Did you put in a image? I thought I
An
saw
image.
and it would have given you the yellow. Here we
Yep.
go. So it's actually said yellow. So it's actually warning you that it's low. So yeah, I definitely take it up to a minimum of. Well, I take it to what Tesla recommends, which is 42. That's what they recommend, and that's the cold inflate. Bearing in mind, the car will not give you an overpressure warning until you hit 53.5 psi. And that's when it'll give you a high pressure warning. So absolutely, I would take the recommended tire pressure as a minimum in a cold situation. So first thing in the morning, if it's 38, then you need to put another 4 psi in. And actually, that's probably not a bad trick. If you then have to drive some distance to a petrol station or whatever, and by then the tire pressures could be 43, just remember what it was short when it was cold and add that difference in. And that'll be pretty close to spot on once the car cools back down again. And then obviously throughout the year, there'll be seasonal differences. So, at the moment, our morning temperatures are, well, as high as 20 degrees. In winter, it could be as low as, if your car's out, it could be 5 degrees. So there will be that differential. So seasonally, you can sort of adjust your tyres. But I mean, tyres generally go gently flat, sort of slowly. So if your pressure's now at 42 cold now, in 6 months, or when winter kicks in, it'll probably still be similar. And then, you might, by the time it gets to summer, it won't make any difference because, the air would have leaked out a little bit, but the temperature's gone up and it would have all compensated. But yeah, definitely keep your tyres up. Please keep them at the 42 cold all the time. Because the last thing you want is an underinflated tyre And that's why the car is actually showing it as a warning. That's a soft warning to say that the pressures are a bit low.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Like today was probably the first of a really cool morning. So I guess it's that time of season that we need to put some extra air into our tires.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And the thing too is you'll get at a more appropriate pressure, you'll get more resilience to potholes because the sidewall will be a little bit more inflated, so stiffer, and you'll also get better efficiency as well. So it's actually saving money having, and you'll also get a more appropriate tread tire wear as well, because no doubt having it underinflated, it broadens the pad, the amount of tire that rubber that's touching the road. There's more flex, so you're getting more wear. So yeah, be kind to the tires and take them to their recommended levels. But like I said, I mean, ideally use an inflator at home, but if you have to drive, just work out the difference in your head and just put that difference in. So don't if you've been on a 5 or 10K journey, go, oh, well, I better just take my tires to 42 PSI, because I guarantee you when you wake up in the morning, it'll be a lot less. The other thing too is if you're on a long road trip and your tire pressure, you see it getting up to 46, 47, 48 PSI, please don't let the air out, because the road is hot. This is obviously if it's in summer. The road's hot. The pressures have naturally come up. The tires are designed to cope with that. And like I said, the car will not warn you about a high pressure until you get to 53.5 PSI. Alrighty. Any other questions or comments? Sorry, James, you just had a image up there. You want to
Yeah,
talk?
just interesting about the I think Ant put it in the congestion charging over East now.
Oh, congestion fee, 50 cents a minute.
So if you are charging above 80% on a congested day,
Oh, okay. Or congested period.
yeah, period.
Interest if the vehicle's moving in 5 minutes. Right. So the human in me says that if I really wanted to get to 100%, because I wanted to, I'd have to just basically charge beyond 80% for up to 5 minutes, unplug, plug
I
back
know.
in. Yeah, plug back in,
People,
charge for another
it's
5.
people like you that make these rules necessary.
Actually, it's a good
But it's
thing
good,
because in
good
general,
subtle way of teaching people.
in general, I mean, look, it's a very good initiative because, to be honest, the purpose of a supercharger, it's in the name, it's a supercharge. It's not a slow charge, it's a supercharger, and it's intended to dump as much energy into your car as quickly as possible. And the purpose is there as a mass charging unit to charge many cars. So, it's a great initiative actually. And it's really only, and I'm sure Tesla wouldn't do this, at Port Augusta, which is it's the western frontier of the eastern states for supercharging. You would want to charge beyond 80% because you want to just, have as much charge as you can to get further west. But of course, Tesla would not implement this in those sort of areas. It's clearly, obviously, in places where there's a lot of congestion, which I dare say that would be a great thing for Karrinyup.
Yeah. And eating on holidays.
Yep. And the thing too is this can be reactionary and basically, like it says, 1 of 4 stalls available. So this is in a peak time. So this could be reacting to actual peak demand periods or even unexpected demand periods. And yeah, as long as they tell you about it, that's totally fine. And yeah, they do need it in Karrinyup, absolutely. Because unfortunately, a lot of people use the supercharger as a convenient place to park while they're ducking in to do some shopping, and happily charge their cars to 100% so that they can stay there a bit longer. Cool. That's a really good initiative of Tesla. Do you know if there are many other sites that have this, or is it just the um, Forest Lodge in New
That's the
South?
one on the outskirts of Sydney coming in.
Yeah, near Marrickville, it looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's about 4 sites I think that have that congestion charge on there so far. I think South Melbourne, something like that. One of the Melbourne ones and a couple of the Sydney ones, and I forget the last one now. I'll look it up. It was yeah, there's not many that have it. And
Yeah.
I suppose I don't know if it's dynamic or not either, is the thing you mentioned before. When a site gets busy, it might start applying, but anyway. Have to
Yeah.
see.
Or maybe I mean, it's described as a congestion fee. So obviously, if the site is not congested, yeah, okay, yeah, it depends. It really does depend.
Yeah, it doesn't say what busy means. I
No.
mean, it used to be above 50% with the idle fee. Was that right? 50%?
Which I'm not certain if that's still the case. I think it
Yeah.
might
Yeah. The fact,
be, but I'm not
yeah,
certain.
it's weird. The fact that it doesn't say it is a bit weird.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, any other news from the Great Eastern States, Chuck?
The Great Eastern States. Um,
Well, you do represent two-thirds of the country.
approximately that time zone. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Only thing I did see was that Powerball owners in Brisbane were getting notified about the storm watch and so on with the
Cyclone.
what was it? Tropical cyclone, whatever it's called. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
And it's category 2, and one of the biggest problems is it looks like it's going to hit between Brisbane and the Gold Coast, and to the south of the south coast, or to the coast south of where the cyclone hits the coast, crosses the coast.
Yeah.
It's in severe risk of storm surge, whereby and they think it might coincide, sadly, with high tide. And basically, because the cyclone, the winds go clockwise, and it basically literally pushes the water, it lumps up the water on that side into the coast. And if it coincides with high tide, I think they said that the water levels will be a meter over the highest normal high tide. So
Jeez.
yeah, it's not going to be great for superchargers or there's quite a few chargers that are quite low down
Yeah.
and are at risk of getting inundated. But yeah, it's great.
I even heard. Oh, sorry, I don't know if it was. I didn't find the source, but I heard that Lismore Council was actually going to uninstall a couple of DC chargers, which were in a low-lying area. Like they were going to preemptively remove them.
Yeah, right.
I'm not sure that's correct or not. If it's the site that I'm thinking of, then I think when it was installed, people were saying, "Oh, that's a floodplain" or something like that. So I don't know. I don't know if that's true or not, or it was just someone on a forum making stuff up. But yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. Frustratingly, one of the good features of the tritium chargers was that the actual main electrical, that the inside of the cabinet was hermetically sealed, and the only part that actually sort of touched the environment was the bottom part where there was a radiator and a 12-volt
the fan.
fan,
Yeah,
and that
yeah,
was the only thing that was sort of vulnerable. Except that's on the presumption that the installers actually installed it with proper glands and it was properly sealed.
yeah.
And that's not always the case. But look, I dare say in any flood, I mean, if you've got a petrol stations probably don't fare very well either because you've got underground tanks and all that sort of stuff. So
Yeah.
no doubt, it can be a very disruptive event if you've got a flooding of any kind.
Oh, I've heard people say that even when there's a strong rain or heavy rain, that'll do something to the fuel tanks. I don't know if it makes them less pure. I don't know what it does, but
Yep.
I've heard even just heavy rain can be an issue.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Images in the chat.
Loading now, loading slowly. Here we go. Wow. So they literally have been removing them.
Oh, there we go. Look at that. I was right. I should have looked at it. I should have looked it up.
Actually, they should, if they were clever, what they should do is remove them and replace them with a different brand because this charger will fail in the fullness of time.
They
But,
could have just left them there and used the flood as an excuse for replacing them.
yes, absolutely. In fact, you can actually see the fan just here. So weirdly, if the water just came up to this level, it would actually be perfectly fine, as long as it was properly installed. But
That's weird.
yeah, right. Look, I guess it's a valuable asset, and yeah, if they want to preserve it, that's a good thing to do. But yeah,
That's true.
all our thoughts for the people on the Sunshine Coast. I guess that's what you call it, whatever, Brisbane and the Gold Coast. Hopefully that all goes well or better than feared.
Yeah.
I think it's late tomorrow night or early Friday morning. So fingers crossed that goes well.
Yes,
Yeah,
it
I
is a
think-
positive that they're thinking of these things, that this is part of their plan for continuity. So that's a good
Yeah.
thing. It's not just set and forget.
And to be, excuse me, and to be honest, to disconnect them is easy. It's literally just the three-phase power, because it's probably got internal comms as far as a mobile phone SIM card. So you just got to disconnect the power physically, and in the switchboard, just isolate that output, and then you're done. You can have that uninstalled in. If you pull your finger out, you could do it in half an hour, no problem.
But it shows the growing methods of why we can't do this, we can't do that. But obviously they've got enough sense to put it in the plan, and they have a contractor who they can call on at short notice to do it. So it's becoming part of the normal council furniture. The
Yes.
same way as they're closing rec centres, they're doing this, they're doing that. It's just a part of doing business these days. It's not a.
Yeah,
So it's good. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Very good. Any other good news on the charging front, Chuck? Any chargers opened or superchargers still?
There was one. Oh, let me have a look. From a browser just crashed in between talking to before, so it's disappeared. There's a new supercharger spotted under construction in Cooma, a second one.
Oh,
So that's between Canberra and Jindabyne.
yes.
The existing site there was 4 stalls, and I think 2 of them have, all vehicle parking permitted. And it was at a supermarket, and the locals would just ice the stalls anyway. So they're building one that looks like it's at least 8 stalls. And Tesla originally got funding for Jindabyne, like in a grant funding round about 2 years ago, and nothing's happened. And apparently there are issues with or either the council there or the power supply there or something like that. But yeah, they haven't been able to get something installed there, so they're doing a second one in Cooma instead.
So is it Centennial? Oh yeah, it was Centennial Plaza that's got the original supercharger, and yeah,
That's it.
it's,
Sharp Street, I think it is.
you had clowns that would do stuff like this because they can.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly it.
So yeah, a mate of mine actually went to Cooma and was iced as well, and had a chat with the person, and that chat didn't go that well for that person. But yeah, great. So and I think it's just around the corner, isn't it? So it's just oops.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's on PlugShare yet.
Oh no, that's the
No,
NRMA.
it's not
Okay,
that
no,
one.
that's
It's a
the
bit.
NRMA one. That's
It's a
coming
bit.
soon.
Yeah, it's a bit further to the east, just before the bend in the road there. It's
Oh,
only
okay.
it's only a few blocks away, so it
Yeah.
doesn't look like it's on there yet.
Yeah, no worries.
But there are pictures on Tesla Motors Forum, I think, and a few others.
Very good.
But
But
yeah, there's a big. There's about 8 spaces blocked off, so probably 8 stalls.
Yeah,
Sorry,
fantastic.
10 spaces blocked off, so probably 8 stalls, including the extra bits and pieces.
And no progress on the Townsville supercharger, because I think that's not up yet. I think Mackay came up,
Let's have a look.
but Townsville, I think, is
No,
not yet.
the last one to open was Bowen Hills, which is in Brisbane, in the city.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So
So there's Bowen, Queensland, and there's Bowen Hills, Queensland. So
yes, yeah, exactly. That was a
just-
bit confusing. Yes,
yes,
yeah. So
just like Colac and Coolac.
yes, yeah. So the Townsville ones are still work in progress, I believe, because it's still showing coming soon. And yeah, there's nothing past the 22nd of February,
Yeah.
which is a shame. But I think Mackay's up, which is good. So
Yes,
yeah,
for your next trip.
yeah. My next trip's not until May, so there's plenty of time.
Oh, May, geez.
Plenty of time.
What are you waiting for?
Ugh. Well, my wife's having a conference in Melbourne, so I figured she's going to catch a one-way flight to Tullamarine, and I'll collect her from the airport after going the top route, the long way, and then a couple of days in Melbourne, and then we're going to drive to Harndorf near Adelaide
Oh, yep.
for a long weekend, and then drop my missus off at the Adelaide airport for a one-way flight to Perth, and complete the lap. So that'll be that poor Model Y's 7th lap. No, yeah, that's my 7th.
That's an expensive Uber service you're offering there.
Yes, indeed, indeed. And then there'll be the Juniper coming out in May, according to Tesla. So that'll probably be at the end of May. So there'll be a double lap. But anyway, enough about me. What do you think about me? All right. So thanks, Chuck. So there's nothing much more to report, I guess. But are you going to the Electrify Everything event in Sydney?
No, I can't go this one, unfortunately. Still recovering from my Flinders Island trip financially. But I'm planning to go to the one in Melbourne in November.
Oh, very good.
Might be a few. Sorry?
Which I think that will coincide with Ava's
Yeah,
AGM.
I think that's the plan. They're going to try and line things up there, which is a shame because I like it to be further away so I can drive further to it.
Yeah,
You can always take the long way.
Superchargers.
that's right. Because that's right, Chuck. Because for you to get to Melbourne, all you got to do is drive to Burnie, and sorry, not Burnie, Devonport.
To
Devonport, and you got the arduous journey from Geelong.
Oh, it's tough. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
you guys turn left
it
at
might
Geelong.
actually just be a fly over and fly back one. I think this time it's yeah.
And I dare say probably cheaper too.
Oh yeah, probably like $70 if I can get flights at the right time. So yeah.
Oh wow, awesome.
Yep.
Well, I'll see you there. So that what I'll do is because
You'll time another lap.
I need to return the Glenn George Trophy for the recipient to get it. I guess
Yes.
ironically, if I drive the Glenn George Trophy to where it's going to be presented, then I
Yeah.
can probably just present it to myself. But anyway,
That's it. You just need to defend the crown.
well, if I don't do it, I won't get it,
Yeah.
and I won't be able to return it. So yeah, it's one of those catch-22s.
Yeah.
If I drive to return it, then I'll retain it, and if I don't drive to return it, then I won't have it. I've still got it. Yeah,
You need to make sure you do a complicated loop to make sure you track the distance. The maximum possible distance you could do.
yes. Well, if it's in Melbourne, you just do it clockwise, and there's no one further from Melbourne than Perth, really. Yeah.
Wonder what would happen if someone in Melbourne left Melbourne and went across to the west. And then,
Actually, I don't think that's quite permitted.
I think there's a rule about backtracking or something.
Yeah, you can't backtrack.
Yeah.
So for example, you can't, if you live in, say, Sydney and you're driving to Melbourne, you can't then go north to Brisbane and then backtrack basically past Sydney and then back to Melbourne. That's not counted. But there's
Yeah,
nothing
but if
stopping.
you're in the west, if you're in the west of Melbourne, you can easily head west all the way around and come into the city.
Decent.
You have not
That's right.
backtracked.
If you want to avoid the tolls in the city or something, you can do it that way.
Yeah, exactly. You say, "Oh, look, I said avoid tolls and right hand turns or something," and it just made me go all the way to WA. And actually, to be honest, if there was someone living in the western suburbs of Melbourne that did a full lap, clockwise lap, and came back to the convention centre and didn't go back home, that would qualify. That absolutely is an epic trip. It's a great excuse to do a lap. That's for sure.
You better check with the lawyers on that attempt before you do it.
Oh yeah, exactly. Alrighty, thanks, Chuck. All right, any other questions or comments?
Mark just put an image in the chat about test drives in Dunsborough.
Ooh. Oh, awesome. It's a self-serve demo drive. That's great because what you can do is there's actually a QR code on the car. So you can actually scan the QR code on the car and book it. The one thing I think I saw in the UK was you need 24 hours notice. Well, it needs to be the next day. So if you're there and take the QR code, I don't think you can book it like in the next half an hour, but you can book it the next day. That's awesome. So
Does it have to return? I'm thinking 5 people, back-to-back bookings. How long do you get? 30 minutes?
I think it's 30 minutes, yes. Yes.
So if you get 5 people and you book 24 hours in advance, you could drive to Perth and back.
I think the problem is you have to return it each time.
Oh, okay. All right.
And I'm just going to look up Google Maps because normally they put it near a charging location so that it can easily be charged, or sometimes you actually plug it. It's actually at a destination charger. Congressional Drive, Dunsborough. And we're just looking. Oh, this looks awfully familiar. I thought this might be near Geograph Electrical. Well, I could be wrong. But it wouldn't surprise me if it was near Geograph Electrical, and they are the people that installed Tesla's superchargers at Eaton and Albany. I think it is near there, so they've probably done a deal with them. It was 14, wasn't it? Congressional Drive. Very interesting. And is that available now, Mark? I guess it is. Oh,
Yeah. I just looked it up just then because I was actually having a look to see whether we managed to get the grey needle back on Busselton or if it's gone elsewhere. Unfortunately, that's not the case. But then this blue steering wheel popped up. I thought, oh, that's interesting.
and is that the only site in WA that does?
Appears to be, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Yep. Yeah, like so I came across one in the UK and I think it was a Highland 3 and I'd never driven one. In fact, I still haven't really driven one and thought, oh yeah, I could just do this right now. But it had like a little asterisk that said, no, you could the first slot I could get was the next day. So, yeah, cool. That's a great initiative. And hopefully there'll be more of those. So people can just try these cars out anywhere, which would be fantastic. Alrighty. Any other questions?
Oh, did you guys see the full self-driving in China? Not calling it full self-driving?
I had COVID, so I couldn't fly over there, but I did watch it vicariously. Um, and yeah, I think there was a video that dropped today. I think very early today,
Yeah,
and it's is it 40 minutes continuous journey, no interventions?
yeah, yeah. I think it was a 50-minute one, but yeah,
Yeah,
there's quite a lot. It's amazing, sort of stuff like the one up in the mountains where
yes.
nothing's marked, and I'm just going, I wouldn't be doing that, but yeah, these guys are crazy bastards.
If even the one where it's doing like a turn, it's a really I think that's
Yeah,
well where it's doing really tight turns, and the car's literally going like 2 k's an hour to get around this turn, and yeah, the driver thinks it's going to hit the wall, and yeah, it doesn't. It just does it flawlessly.
And you see some of the videos where it was sort of like, was it 2, 3 or 4 lane roads join in like a Y, and the way it's just merging, and there are cars everywhere, and motorbikes and mopeds and scooters and all that sort of stuff everywhere, and the car was slowly just working its way through it, and it's just remarkable. And that's the thing, is none of us in Australia understand this because we've had to put up with autopilot, which can do nothing like this whatsoever. And I did see a post, a tweet post. I think someone in the room actually either retweeted it or commented, and it was basically lamenting the fact that in Australia we only have autopilot, and that hasn't been touched for many years now. What they really need to do urgently is just introduce the FSD platform into Australia, but just take away all the full self-driving ability. Just have FSD acting like autopilot, and then it would be perfect, because that would make autopilot so much more awesome. But, yeah, hopefully in a few weeks. I mean, I guess what we could do is have a little tote to see when FSD supervised becomes enabled in Australia. So who wants to have a guess? So
May.
as to, all right, go Paul.
I'll say May.
Oh, May. Sorry, I thought you went
Yeah.
May. May I guess? May. Okay.
No, I'll say May.
You want to be? Is it a certain? Is it the 4th of May? The 4th be with you?
Oh, how cool would that be? I think it'll be late May, but yes, that'd be brilliant. The 4th of May would be brilliant. I'll go late May.
Late May.
Yep.
Anyone else want to predict?
It'll come standard with a Tesla Cybertruck in Australia.
Well, that's true, but
Being a bit pessimistic.
yeah.
Oh, dearie me. Pete,
I'll say 30th of June.
the what of June?
The 30th of June. So the very last day, while they can still claim that he was still within the forecast time frame. So I'm going to go 30th of June.
All right.
I actually think it might even be in July, but yeah, let's go. So the reason for I'll get everyone to put in their bids first, then I'll give you my reasoning.
All right. Well, anyone else want to think about it while I think about it? Anyone else want to put a date?
I reckon I'll try 15th of July. I reckon I'm more towards the end of July, but 15th will do me.
All right.
I'm going to say June when the robotaxi is released.
Ooh. That's interesting, Norm. That's interesting. Don't forget, this is only FSD supervised, so it's not.
Yes.
It's not
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
I'll go September to celebrate my birthday.
Oh, very good, Penny. That's one of my kids' birthdays and wife's birthday as well, so that's a good choice. Sorry. Yeah, that is right. That is true. Yes.
Do you have a day in September, Penny?
Sorry, what?
Do you have a day in September?
Oh, okay. Well, if you want my date, the 18th. There we go.
That's about the middle of September. Very good.
Yeah.
That's my wife's birthday.
I just asked Grok, and it's told me April the 30th.
Okay.
Really?
It pro-
Was that on deep? Was that on deep thinking? Was that the deep search, whatever it's called? The deep search.
No, this is Grok. So
Yeah, but
Yeah,
there's
it's got
I don't know which engine I've got. Gave me good
It gives
reason.
you options.
yeah, deep think, or what, did you just punch it in?
deep search. I think is it called? It's called deep search.
Yeah. FSD,
Right, I'm going for deep search.
when you reckon. I like it that you can just ask it in Australian and it answers you in Australian. Oh,
When will FSD Supervise be available in Australia? Go Grok.
cool. Still going.
Yeah,
Clarifying.
deep search. Time.
Got 10 sources.
I'm up to 80 sources.
I wonder how many gigawatts of power we're consuming, all from WA. Oh, it's got Tech AU. You can't listen to that guy. He doesn't know.
Okay, 130 sources, and says it will be in the first half of 2025. Well, okay.
Oh, it's completed. Possibly in the coming months. Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I had the same sort of thing.
Just put in the chat.
Yeah.
It's the Australian Design Rule 90 that prohibits it.
Oh,
And from what I can do, a bit of Commonwealth legislation search, it doesn't seem like they're going to have a framework until 2026 to 2027. So I think full self-driving supervised most likely won't be out until probably at this rate, 2030.
but hang on. How does that explain autopilot then?
Because autopilot still needs intervention with you actually holding the steering wheel and nudging it every so often. And technically, you're not supposed to use autopilot without your hands on the wheel. It's no different to what my car is currently, which is a Hyundai Tucson that has adaptive cruise control and lane centering, but it beeps at you the minute you take your hands off the wheel and you're not intervening.
But the current autopilot has two modes of working out whether you're paying attention. One is a slight torque on the steering wheel.
Yep.
At regular intervals, or should I say that
So
it
that's a
only
gray.
detects it.
So you see where we're working at is in the gray area because we are touching the steering wheel and giving it a bit of a twerk, right? But technically what they're saying, and they put in your your instruction manuals, is that your hands must be on the wheels at all times.
Yep.
And that's part of the Australian design rule, is that your steering system, and if I'm not, I have to probably dig down to the really nitty-gritty of the legislation. It probably stipulates that you must be in control of your vehicle at all times, which stipulates certain things like you must have your hands on the wheels, etc. So if the Australian design rules doesn't pass, then your state laws will probably say that if your vehicle doesn't conform to the Australian design rules, then it's illegal. That's where it gets a
So
bit.
this is so Jeffrey. So I've put in to deep search exactly what you suggested. So I said, does Australian Design Rule 90 prohibit it? And it's come up and said, research suggests Australian Design Rule 90 or ADR 90 does not prohibit Tesla full self-driving FSD supervised, as it focuses on steering system design, not control mechanisms.
Yeah. So
And then it goes.
here's a reference. Have a look. These are some of the lawyers that have put up that, which is what I've referenced it in the chat.
Okay.
It's a bit of an interesting one because I've looked into this before, like early before. because a lot of cars, not just Teslas, a lot of other cars like Ford and everything, they have like what is that, Super Cruise? I think in America they call it Super Cruise, where they could literally drive, and some of them are even probably better than the Teslas at the moment. That's what they're saying. But it's just because our laws are a bit kind of like a nanny state at the moment.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you have to take into account like in Australia we have the Austroads, which is Australia and New Zealand,
Yeah.
and the guidelines have been changed, so that'll be coming out soonish.
Yep.
So in the next few months, so things are actually changing. So I wouldn't worry about that.
Yeah, it's changing, but it's just Australia's a bit slow in terms of pace. Like if you see China, like you guys were saying in China, they're
Yeah.
doing
No.
it. Tesla has to
Yeah.
do it quick because the thing is with BYD and other car manufacturers, I think recently BYD have got full self-driving now in China, and I think
No, it's not. It's a ADAS system. I take it you don't drive a Tesla because
yeah, no, I think
it's chalk and cheese sort of stuff.
no, not the BYD in Australia. The BYD's in China.
No, yeah, the
BYD,
God mode.
yeah,
Yeah, God is autopilot. But they just called it full self-driving. So it's
yeah.
not the same system.
I think
And
they still have a
so
few other ones because they got some cars in China now. Because my friend lives in China and he's been in
yes,
some of the taxis that are like
yeah,
Waymo taxis, and
yeah,
they've
the
got like
Baidu and stuff like that.
yeah, yeah.
But
So they have
if you look at the full self-driving, the China videos with Teslas,
yeah,
they actually compared, the Huawei ones, which was
yeah,
supposed
yeah,
to be better. They're actually saying the Tesla ones are better. So it's like you already know how to drive, and then you've gone to a foreign country and you drop there, and then you go, oh, I know how to drive, but I don't really know the rules, all the rules sort of stuff.
yeah,
So it's all changed. That's why I brought up the full self-driving as well. It's actually the whole landscape's actually changed in 1 week, and it's just
yeah,
exponentially going the other way. So
But there is no
but
doubt
yeah,
that
in Australia, Austroads for like autonomous vehicles and things like that, all that legislation's actually being changed
yeah. They're
for charging
changing.
and stuff. No, I can't say anything because I'm being recorded, but allegedly some people have been consulting with that sort of stuff. So
Yeah.
watch this space.
the
So
landscape's changing. It's no different
it's yeah.
yeah. In
Well, I
Australia,
can't wait.
there was a rule against trucks being wider than 2.5 meters, and it's now been changed. The regulations have been changed to now be, I don't know if it's 2.25, sorry,
2.55.
2.525 or 2.55,
Yeah.
but I think it's 2.55. So it it broadens Australia to accept a lot more trucks, whether they're EVs or not. It's immaterial. So regulations definitely are changing. So
Yep.
sorry, Paul, when did you say that? When were you looking at FSD? Did you
I
say
said May.
May?
I said May.
You said late May. Yeah,
I said
right.
late May. No, I don't have any inside information
No,
on
no,
that.
that's okay. I don't
It
even know what to go
allegedly
for.
happens.
I could
Yeah.
try and be optimistic.
Yeah. Could
Yeah,
be
actually,
next week.
I've
Who
got no
knows?
idea. I got no idea. And whatever. I mean, I could pick a long date and be late, or pick an early one and be wrong. But it's going to be interesting. It's
Just
definitely
pick a
going to be
date,
interesting.
Harold. Don't sit on the fence. Pick a date.
Yeah. Put it on the block.
I don't know. Actually, I'll tell you I'll tell you when I want it to happen. It'll be when I'm driving around Australia in my Model Y. So that's in early May. So I'm going to say no. It'll be just as I get back. So the middle of May. Or I can't remember the date. It'll be the day I get back to Perth from my lap. So call it
Yeah.
the 17th, 16th of May, something like that.
And
So that-
so, what's your actual date in May?
Oh, I didn't pick one, did I? I just said late May. Also the 28th. There you go.
28th. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, I confirm this up now because I think Actually, I'm going to pick the 20th of May. Oh, what did you pick, Paul?
28.
Oh,
pick
that's
the
a bit
under.
too close. Oh, look,
No, it's okay. It's okay.
I'm only thinking, just ironically, it'll be just as I get back.
Yeah. No, it's all good. It's fine.
Yeah, but I got no confidence whatsoever.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, look, if they just declared it as operating like autopilot with benefits,
Yeah.
whereby you have to keep your hand on the wheel, or you have to show attention through the camera.
The autonomous vehicles, or they're calling them CAVs, which is really annoying, which is connected autonomous vehicles. All that stuff's coming out.
So
some things like for charging, they listen to us, so that'll actually be good. That's going to get updated. But autonomous vehicles,
with the FSD, so it's the autonomous vehicles. What does Tesla's navigate on autopilot then mean? Because
that's an ADAS system.
Because it autonomously goes on an off ramp, off a freeway, without
as long as you're supervising.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So,
yeah, in WA, we have the thing as long as you're in charge behind the vehicle, behind the steering wheel. So technically, you could not be touching it, but it's your responsibility if you have a crash. So,
yeah.
Or like what I like to do to my brother, so I'm not freaking them out, is I pretend to drive.
Yes. You pretend to be paying attention.
Yeah. I go, look, I'm driving, where I'm not. So, yeah, we'll see when we get a new state government, and who the new minister is, if we can.
I'm sure one day it will be illegal to drive.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that day. Actually, it'll be good.
Because I mean, statistically wise, if you think about it, any accident that happens, I would say, ballpark figure, probably 90% of it's human error. Like, you know,
minimum. Yeah. Yep.
And if it's not human error, it's probably someone that probably didn't maintain their vehicle properly, right? You never put good tires on, or you never serviced, or you never had brake fluid in, or something, you know. Or
you don't worry a lot of that stuff with these Teslas. Brake fluid. What the hell? Don't use the brakes.
Yes, but do have a look at your tires, especially if you've got a performance Model Y. Look on the inside, because you don't want to do what I did and get a deflation within 2 seconds.
Yes.
At 110.
Yes.
Hey, Harold, Sexton's just put into chat saying that we're at level 2.
Yes.
And he's saying apparently government's looking to approve level 3. So FSD supervised is actually level 2.
Yes.
So if level 2 is approved already, then FSD supervised should not have to have any regulations changed for it to be released here.
Well, that's right, because it says control steering and acceleration/deceleration.
Yeah.
Just FYI, that one I think is an American post.
Yeah, it's US.
Have a look at the one that I've put in.
Well, SA is international. It's not American or Australian.
Yeah, but I think where Australia classifies it a little bit differently. Let me just
okay.
Let me see if I can post it in there.
Well, SA3 is currently under trial in Australia, according to Docker I'm looking at. And they're expecting they're awaiting regulatory approval with significant developments expected by 2026.
Yep. I didn't say yes. You'll have to delete that.
I think you just coughed.
Yeah, I coughed. Fucking hell, this shouldn't be. I'll get us demonetized though.
You've developed Tourette's.
Yeah,
Level 2 is partial driving automation. Provide a combination of steering and brake/acceleration support to the driver.
It looks like there's also something called AVSL currently under development, which is the Australian Vehicle Safety Laws.
Mm-hmm.
And that is also being developed to be anticipated to be implemented by 2026.
Yep.
All right, so Paul, you're just going to be quiet for the remainder of the program.
Yeah,
What was the initial question? Because I think I missed it. Like, what was the date for
When
it?
is FSD supervised going to be released in Australia?
Yeah,
That
we were
was
just speculating.
speculating.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, laws are there, but there's always grey areas, right? Because if you say FSD supervised, you can really technically argue it probably falls into SAE to level 2. You know, it's not considered automated. You know, depends how you classify it.
I think the big difference between level 2 and level 3 is level 2 expects you to be in control of the vehicle at all times, but the
Correct.
car's basically doing the motions of driving. Whereas level
Yeah.
3, my interpretation is you can take your hands off the steering wheel and look down at something, and then if the
Yeah.
car beeps, you have to take over. So that's a
Yeah.
big change, because you're basically
Yeah.
putting your faith in the car and having no one to sort of mind it.
And I also
Yeah.
guess how much lawyers that, Tesla has to write things in a specific way to make sure that it fits a certain level.
Well, I mean, you can see here it says driver must take over if requested, but Tesla doesn't. Well, actually, Tesla does kind of do that because, although it will say that it doesn't, but the car every now and then will say, take control immediately. The autopilot is aborting, and it gives you that red steering wheel of death, and it gives you that sort of very nasty sort of sound. But really, if, as Tesla says or warns you at the start of each session of autopilot, that you must supervise and be ready to take over at all times, and that the car never really handles everything fully, because level 3 is saying it sporadically does everything under certain conditions, but the driver must take over if the car requests it. I mean, it's a pretty slight difference between 2 and 3, but it's sufficiently different that Tesla could simply declare that FSD supervised, like they have in the States, you are obliged to hold the steering wheel continually, which we know the car doesn't care about except for every 10, 15, 20 seconds where it needs to see a bit of torque on the steering wheel. Or it also needs, I mean, the one thing is, if you're really naughty as a naughty human and you put a sticker or a cover over the internal camera, you'll actually get a steering wheel nag much more often, because it probably says, well, like for whatever reason, a moth has sat on the camera and it can't observe the driver, so then it will request more torque wiggling of the steering wheel much more often. So I guess as long as Tesla just declares that FSD supervised in Australia is level 2 or equivalent, and yes, it will change lanes and it'll do whatever, but you have to always be in control. I don't see why that couldn't be implemented quite quickly.
Well, FSD supervised has been classified as level 2 everywhere else in the world as SAE level 2.
And if autopilot has also been declared as level 2, then there should be no impediment to FSD, to Tesla. And that's the crazy thing is, I mean, we know that people have reported on X and other platforms that their cars have been uploading a large amount of data on a nearly daily basis in Australia, of the order of 50 gigabytes a session. And it's clearly doing, like, I think Tesla's actually also said that in Europe that FSD is running in shadow mode in European cars. And it obviously is also doing the same in Australian cars. I mean, I think the thing we need urgently is FSD supervised, not because we can do all the party tricks of, no intervention drives and all that sort of stuff. It's to get us off autopilot. Because to be honest, as good as autopilot is compared to nothing, it pales into insignificance compared to FSD supervised. And if they simply,
100%.
because sadly, look, if I could send a post, a Twitter, an X post to Elon Musk and say, Elon, I want to show you all the places that autopilot wants to kill me, and if you promise to pay for Western Power to replace that power pole on the corner of Leigh Street and Manning Road which I know every single time I drive there on a green traffic light with no car in front, it will literally, rather than going to the right or go to the left, it will split the difference and line up that pole perfectly and very, very thoroughly test the crumple zone of my Model Y. And let's face it, it's fairly depreciated, you know.
And it's you, Harold. It's every Tesla that does it. So
yes, I even asked you to do it, Pete, and it did it exactly as I said.
Yeah, you even try to kill me, not just yourself.
That's right.
So maybe the issue that we don't have FSD is if you're saying that they're uploading so much data, is maybe we have crappy NBN networks that we can't upload that much data. Taking a while.
Don't get me started. I happen. No, actually, I won't get started. Yeah,
But
it's even a challenge.
you started making, Harold.
Sorry?
Finish the point you started making.
What was it?
Well, the point is we need to get off autopilot because
Yes.
autopilot is actually damaging to Tesla's reputation. Because I think a reason why a lot of us were very skeptical a couple of years ago about FSD ever coming to Australia is we look at our performance of autopilot. I mean, you've got the classic things. If you're in a double, in fact, I'll actually show you the intersection. I mean, these intersections are all over the place, so it's really anywhere where there are two double lanes. I'll show you in 2 seconds. Here we go. So this is near Curtin University on Manning Road. So what happens is, and you can't actually turn this, but if you're driving in the right-hand lane through this intersection, so I'll just zoom out a little bit, you're driving along through this intersection. What the car will do is as you're coming along here, so this car here, if this was a Tesla, it would falsely interpret this dotted guideline as the right-hand curb.
Yep.
So it will, as it approaches here, this car, if it was a Tesla on autopilot, would, and there were no cars here, would absolutely change lanes at nearly a 45-degree angle or say a 30-degree angle it'll change lanes into this lane.
Yep.
And it will do it at the drop of a hat. And actually there's another one just up here. Sorry, this is the intersection I meant. No, this one. It's in shade. This one. So as you're driving along here, the car will get to there, see this line, presume it's the right-hand curb, and absolutely change lanes into the left-hand lane. And again, if Elon would fund my experiment, I'd like to line up another Tesla to the left of me and see if my car reefs it into the car in the left-hand lane, or whether it would see it and go, oh, maybe I shouldn't, because the number of times it wiggles the steering wheel going to the left is just not funny. And that's one of the things it's probably important that a lot of new Tesla owners be told this, not to scare them, just to say, look, just hold on. When you come to one of these intersections, just hold on to the wheel and simply don't let it go left. And as soon as the car starts turning the wheel and you hold it still, once that force exceeds half a kilo, which is not very much, it instantly disengages autopilot and carries on straight.
Harold, Tesla are legally covered because if you read the disclaimer, which you have to press yes on before you enable autopilot, it tells you the situations in which it's designed to be used, and it does say beta, so it's auto beta, which is test software, but it does say no cross traffic, and that intersection would classify as cross traffic. So it's basically saying not to use it in those situations.
Yeah, and it's important that people know those limitations. But the thing is, these limitations could be wiped away with a single software update that simply has the FSD supervised platform, but with autopilot features. So we don't even need it to have automatic, like if you navigate somewhere and it comes up to a left-hand turn, it doesn't need to make that turn. You can just disengage your so-called autopilot and make the left-hand turn yourself, because autopilot doesn't make left-hand turns or turns automatically. So we want to have the autopilot feature set running in a subset of FSD supervised. That's all we want. And that would completely change the way autopilot works. And you wouldn't have to change any legislation because autopilot's already legal. Just do the neural networking to implement autopilot features.
But you know how Tesla works. They won't do that because they'll just say, well, "We're just going to wait a few more weeks, a few more months, and just release FSD supervised." So that's the way Tesla works.
Well, I'm going to pick.
But the reason.
End of September. I'm going to pick. Actually, I'm going to pick late October.
Changing his day.
So you've changed. Are you changing your 20th of May?
Yeah, let's go late October.
I'll still be optimistic.
I'm going 2026.
Oh,
yeah. You're buying. You're definitely buying. Buying that round.
Sexton, what did you say? What's your estimate?
2026.
Oh, 2026. Well, you got to pick a month and a day.
Oh, January 1st then.
Okay. Harold, so you got to pick a day as well if you're changing to October.
27th of October.
Right.
Yep.
Is that your birthday?
We're talking about Tesla. I was going to say Telstra releasing FSD into Australia.
Yep.
Yes.
Supervised.
Supervised. Not unsupervised.
Not even unsupervised. Yep.
Supervised. Yeah.
So SAE2.
Yeah. Yes.
So, in theory. So
yeah.
There's nothing
Remember,
really holding it up.
with the Model Y, I said August, and I was right. So, the first Model Y, I was only just right.
Yeah, I was wrong.
So hang on a tick. So
Yes,
that means that you'd only be able to use that with an FSD license.
Yes.
Not advanced autopilot. Right. So given Tesla's current state of finances, it would make economic sense because they may be able to make a bit of money out of that.
But the thing is, when you've got enhanced autopilot or just autopilot, actually, that's a question I don't. Does anyone know if standard autopilot in the United States behaves like our autopilot, or is it more like FSD?
You mean advanced autopilot, right?
No, just standard autopilot. So does in the States, is Tesla's autopilot using our crappy autopilot framework like we have, or are they using a cut down version of FSD these days? In other words, if you went to this intersection in the right hand lane, would it just change lanes automatically?
I almost hit a bus.
Spontaneously, or would it do what FSD would do, which is drive straight? So I wonder in America whether their autopilot is just a cut down version of the FSD neural network, or is it just 300,000 lines of C++ code like we have? That would be an interesting question to answer, because all the videos in America are all about FSD supervised. Yeah. No one really cares about autopilot anymore. So that would be interesting to see, because I think it would be a backward step that you would have to pay $10,000 to get autopilot that works. Because if Tesla is truly dedicated to increasing the safety of all its vehicles, then autopilot should be the best it can possibly be within its restrictions. And that means it should really be a neural network based platform rather than a C++ deterministic model or whatever you call it, pre-programmed. Just, well, this is towards the end of the program because not many people on YouTube watch it. So if non-Tesla aficionados saw it, they might think we're a bit negative. And we're not being negative on Tesla. It's just, it's an opportunity for Tesla to be the best it can be. And, you know, just give us FSD pilot. Call it whatever you want. Just give us that neural network and make it behave like autopilot or restrained like autopilot. Anyway, yeah, we'll see what happens. Yeah, I've changed it. 27th of October. So if we do a quick round, Paul, you were
28th of May.
28th of May.
Yeah.
Pete, you were you 30 July?
30th of June.
30 June. Saxon's first New Year's Day next year. Peter Ship, you were
15th of July, I think I said.
15th of July, and I think Penny was her birthday. That was in September.
18th of September for
18th
Penny.
of September. And Norm, I can't quite remember now.
I'm going to say 13th of June.
Right, very good.
Hopefully that's when Robotaxi comes out in America.
Oh, yes, that's right. Yes, yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Oh, now we're getting towards the end of the program. Speaking of things that are coming out, hopefully, is the Flight 8 of Starship.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, starting
No,
at
That's
I
been
just
postponed.
checked. It's Friday morning our time now.
Oh, has it changed? Just
Yeah, it changed again. Yeah, Thursday. Changed to Thursday American.
Oh,
I was like, damn it, because I'll be actually in the office. I'll have to sneakily watch a Starship launch and somehow say
too.
that's about electric cars. So
It is. Well, actually, it is because Starship's the future, and
yes,
EVs are the future.
EVs are the future. Yeah.
There are some batteries, some lithium-ion batteries made by Tesla on Starship.
Yeah, exactly. They got Model S batteries on there, so to run
And
the flaps.
Yep. And there's Starlink on that, and yeah, just go. It's because. So you're going to the office. You're not working from. You're not working from home.
Yeah, I'm working. I do work. I actually do more work at home than I can get done at the office. Actually, yeah, I'm working from home tomorrow. So I was very stoked. So because I thought, I get to watch this, and yeah, no, I'll be working, and people will be interrupting, so that'll be fun. Anyway,
Deary me.
it's all good.
Oh well.
It's all good.
Okay, so it's Friday. That's good. And we got
Yes, Friday.
another 2 sleeps. All right. And before we do take the first of those 2 sleeps, are there any final questions or comments before we wrap this awesome show up?
I'll just give you my reasoning for the 30th of June. I based it on those ads for Tesla test drivers in Sydney, and those were 3-month contracts that I think they were advertised last week. So if you take 3 months from now, that gets you to roughly end of June. Yeah, I know we've had those ads, was it last year or even earlier?
Yeah.
And those were 3 contracts as well. But yeah, that's the only thing I've got to go on. So
I'm going 30th of June next year.
Oh.
Does anyone have 23rd?
I'm just.
You know,
I've
I've always said full self-driving.
I'm just reading
until
here.
2030.
Sorry.
Go, Saxon.
I'm just reading here, and it's saying that it shouldn't require regulatory approval because it's technically level 2. However, Tesla believes it does require regulatory approval, and so there's a bit of, I suppose, unknown around because they haven't said why, but they're saying it needs regulatory approval. So there's a bit of an unknown.
That was for unsupervised.
No. This is for supervised. Tesla believes FSD supervised will require regulatory approval in Australia. We just don't know why. This is in Tech AU.
Where are you reading?
That's an article in Tech AU, but there's a couple of articles that suggest the same thing.
No. It was unsupervised.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I've made a mistake. Forget it.
It's okay.
Cool. All right. All right. Any last questions or comments before we get Pete to wrap up this awesome show?
Tesla's on sale.
I'll just say I think Grok will be, if it's anything like Elon Musk, will be optimistic. So I'll go for the 20th of August. Yeah, following Penny is my birthday.
All right. We've had too many people. We don't. So we got you got your name, date of birth. Can we have your address as well? And your number.
I didn't get the year.
You don't.
No. We don't want
We're
to
being recorded. So,
our members. That's right.
Dox
Exactly.
you. Yeah, exactly.
Alrighty. On that note, before we further dox each other, Pete, how would you round out an awesome show like this as if we didn't already know?
So always stay safe, stay sustainable, and stay ahead of the curve.
And the best way to do that is buy a Tesla, join TOCWA, predict when FSD supervised is going to happen, and ask us anything about accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy. Have a wonderful week, everyone. You never know. It could happen this week. But in any case, I do look forward to seeing you on next week's episode of TOCWA's Ask Us Anything. Good night, everyone.
I know.
See you guys.